Today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the legislative branch, the House of Representatives and the Senate. We'll talk about the differences between the two and what their powers and responsibilities are. Okay, so today we're talking about the legislative branch. But before we get into the chapter, we're going to do a couple of vocabulary words. The first one is session. And session, in this case, means when Congress is working. The senators and the representatives, they don't work year-round. They work for a period of time, then get some time off, which they call a recess. So session is when Congress is working. A committee is a group of people in Congress who study bills, try to come up with solutions to problems. A majority is more than half. And depending on what type of law is being passed, they need a majority to pass it. Some cases you need more if there's a filibuster involved, but that's a little bit later. A bill is an idea for a law. And then we'll talk about constituent. A constituent is the people who elect a person to office. So if you guys voted for Mr. Oliver to be the mayor of Youngstown, you would be my constituents. So have you ever wondered why certain laws get passed and other laws don't? We're going to talk about the people who make those decisions today and what goes into making a law and the different things they consider when that process is started. One branch of government, the legislative branch, they're the ones who get to make the laws. They're often called the people's branch because they are directly elected by their citizens. So to be a congressman or to be a senator or representative, you can come from all different kinds of backgrounds. Their main responsibility is to serve their people and write the country's laws. So, meetings of Congress. Every year in January, Congress begins a new session, and they're going to meet, and they're going to have their day-to-day business, and they meet in Capitol Hill, which is in Washington, D.C., and I think I've included a couple of pictures of that earlier in the presentation, and I'll put a couple more up later. So, in Congress, the legislative branch, there's two pieces. There is the House of Representatives and the Senate. But we'll go into the House of Representatives first. It has 435 members. And each state gets a different amount of representatives based on its population. So 435 members. California has the most seats in Congress because they have the biggest population by far. They have 50-some representatives that they get. I think Texas gets like 36 or 38, but California gets the most because they have the highest population. The House of Representatives is oftentimes called the lower house of Congress. One of the reasons why is if you get that job, you only have it for 2 years, and then you have to face re-election. So one of the reasons that these people are so concerned about their constituents is 2 years isn't a long time to forget. So let's say you guys elected me to be a representative in Ohio, and I make all these promises, I'm going to get the roads fixed and get more money for schools, and I don't keep my promises. Well, 2 years isn't a very long time. You guys would remember it in the next election. I'm probably not getting reelected. So the most powerful person in the House of Representatives, and possibly the second most powerful person in our government, is the Speaker of the House. So each year, or each time Congress comes into session, they choose a Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House is chosen by the majority party. So right now, Donald Trump is a Republican, and the leader of the Senate is a Republican, but the leader of the House of Representatives is a Democrat because they have the majority in the House of Representatives. Her name is Nancy Pelosi. The Speaker of the House is a very powerful person. They get to run the meetings of the House of Representatives. They get to decide who talks and when they discuss certain bills and what topics they're going to be working on that day. They assign people to committees, and they're basically the ones who run the meetings for the House of Representatives. Okay, the next group we're talking about is the Senate. The Senate is similar, but there are some key differences. In the Senate, each state gets 2 senators. That's it. So regardless of population, they get 2 senators per state. So a state like California gets 2, and a small state like Vermont also gets 2. The Senate is known as the upper house, And if you get elected to the Senate, you serve 6 years for your term. So it's 3 times longer, and there's also no term limits for the House or for the Senate. So you can only be president twice, but you could be a representative 50 times if you keep winning the election. So the person in charge of the House is called the Speaker of the House. The person in charge of the Senate is called the President of the Senate. It gets a little bit confusing here. So the Senate's leader is the President of the Senate, and he is actually the Vice President. So Mike Pence is the current President of the Senate, but he's not actually the one who leads the Senate. That's the Majority Leader, who's Mitch McConnell. So the Vice President in the Senate is not a senator. He can't speak out for or against a bill, and he only gets to vote when there is a tie. So he recently got to vote when they were approving Donald Trump's cabinet position, Betsy DeVos, for Secretary of Education. It was tied, and Mike Pence got to come in and be the tie-breaking vote. So a lot of people think that the Vice President is powerful. They think he's the second most powerful person in our government, and in all reality, the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader in the Senate both probably have more power than the Vice President. Okay guys, so what you need to do now is we are going to go in to the worksheet for Chapter 5, Lesson 1.